Well, I'll do the video download first.
Okay.
Regarding the video download, the chief states that he, after consulting with the Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office, as well as expert advice in response concerns raised over the integrity of the evidentiary videos in high-profile officer-involved shootings, the decision was made to no longer allow for downloading of videos by any party. And he suggests that we or I meet with Attorney Schmiel from the City Attorney's Office to iron out a protocol to preserve videos longer than 120 days that are not tagged with any sort of case number or evidence number. And
okay.
So I have not had that meeting as yet.
He just walked in. I'll invite you to come up and visit about this, if you will. I want to clarify what we're talking about. Ed brought to us the last meeting a concern that the videos that we have access to, the board has access for a limited period of time on certain cases, and then that time expires. The staff needs of the agency need to have access because of the requirements of the monitor and the DOJ in terms of assessing their assessment of cases that come before the staff and are brought then to us. So they want the staff wants ongoing access to that, which they've had in the past, but the policy has changed. And so it's changed in a way that makes it only available to them for a limited period of time, which makes it so that when we submit it to the DOJ and the monitor, it's not complete. The monitor doesn't have all of the information that they need. So that's the problem, and that's why we wrote to the chief. Did I say any of that wrong, Mr. Harness?
No, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Schmiele, would you tell us about your ideas about this?
Sure, Chair Fine and board members. My understanding is when you have access to evidence.com, you have access to the server, which means that videos on that server can be viewed through evidence.com. I think what you had just explained needs to be tweaked just a little bit to take that into consideration, because as long as it's tagged not to be deleted, it will still be there. So as long as that investigator has access to evidence.com and it's been appropriately tagged, it's always viewable by that investigator.
Does that mean it's viewable by the monitor and the Justice Department?
Absolutely.
So the place where we're at is that the chief is saying, you're going to have to find another way around this because we're not making it possible for you to download this. So you're going to have a conversation with Mr. Schmiele, and then you're going to talk to them, and in the process talk to the Justice Department and the monitor?
Chair Fine, that's correct. The matter of preserving the videos past 120 days is cumbersome, to say the least, in the fact that, one, sometimes we may not know what video we need until near the deadline. There's no ability for an investigator to go in and tag a video for it not to be deleted. That has to be a step.
You mean your staff investigator cannot tag it?
Our staff cannot go in and tag a video for it to be preserved. So then they have to work through the department to go in to preserve the video. So there has to be some protocol. And unless things have changed from the monitor, we have to give them the entire file for an investigation. They have not said, give us everything except for the video because we'll go to evidence.com and get the video. We have to supply them with everything.
And there's no assurance that the video is tagged to not be deleted?
The only assurance is that the department says that they will do that upon our request at this point.
Within the 120 days, our
Correct.
request?
If we get it before the 120 days. If we target the particular video, because
so if you find out on the 121st day, you're out of luck.
Right.
Okay. how long does the process take in terms of the staff going through it and then the monitor? If you added that time together, how much time are we talking about on average?
Well, the monitor is looking at cases that are anywhere from 1 to 6 months old.
So that's the 120 days that they have, not counting what we have. So you could expire the 120 pretty quickly.
Not counting the date of the incident, because the date of the incident is when the 120 days begins to toll.
Holy cow, well, that really makes a difference. So, okay, well, I just wanted to make sure on the record we understood the issue. Mr. Harness, do you have any other concerns about going forward with this way of trying to come to a conclusion?
Chair Fine, I think that the argument that they make is specious, and it calls into question the integrity of our agency. We are not going to be downloading videos so that they can be altered and produced. They are not going to be in the evidentiary chain in any sort of a court trial. So making an evidence argument, I believe, is specious.
Okay, so should our attorney be part of that conversation?
I always welcome Attorney Jackson's counsel.
Well, then I think we have a path to proceed. I just wanted to make sure we were clear about what the issue was. Does anybody on the board have any questions about this?
Chair Fine, I think it's important that we have that opportunity to see those videos. When I look back at some of the cases that we were trying to catch up with last year, having the videos really helped us, even though they were past 120 days. So it's going to be real important that we have that process, access to those videos.
And I have a question. Doesn't it say in the ordinance that we have access to subpoena evidence for an audit purposes? How would that interact with this?
Chair Fine, then we would have to declare every case an audit, and I don't think we want to go down that road.
No, but I mean, if we were running against the 120 days, could we subpoena the evidence till we would still have it?
Well,
or is that not connected?
The issue, Chair Fine, the issue is two, making sure that it's preserved on evidence at this point, since there's the debate about the ability to download, and then there's the ability to download so that our investigators have access to it at any point in time through their own computer and their own device. I'm not sure that using the audit function enhances our ability in any way.
So it doesn't meet our needs?
Chair Fine, I don't believe so.
Okay. This is a problem that needs a resolution. Do we have a reason why that now, all of a sudden, this is different? Why were we able to do it before and we can't now? What's the rationale for that?
Chair Fine, the rationale given was based upon the Chavez affidavits and wanting to make sure that there's no ability to alter any video.
On our part?
On anyone's part, but as I said, calling our agency's integrity into play, that we would be altering videos and then distributing them. It all is a fallout from the Chavez affidavit related to the Hawks case and other cases where there's allegations of video tampering.
So is it fair to say that because the police department was accused in an affidavit of altering videos of evidence? I'm sorry?
That they're now
saying they're worried about us doing that? Is that the logic? Because we were called in question, our treatment of videos was called in question, we are now restricting access to that evidence by the agency that's supposed to be the civilian oversight. Is that correct?
Chair Fine, that's the logic that has been presented.
Okay.
And Chair Fine and board members, if I can just interject a couple different things. I don't think there's any way to absolutely guarantee that a given video does not have evidentiary value. I think that's a leap that can't be made at this point in time into the future forever. You just don't know that. Second, the access to or the ability to download has been severely limited in the department itself. I understand that only a few personnel have that ability moving forward. So this correction was done not just taking into consideration external, calling CPOA external, but also internally, because Mr. Chavez was internal. So I think that this restriction is not something that is reflexive to a concern that there's going to be this type of activity from the CPOA. It's a recognition that if you have evidence, you have to preserve that evidence. And when you download a video and have that capability to potentially alter it, it calls that evidence into question. I can tell you as a trial attorney that I would have a lot of problems with a video that was capable of being downloaded. So,
Even though you could still get the original video from APD.
well, it calls into question the original if there are multiple copies out there. I understand, and I think it's something that, I don't think that the motivation to do this was to cut off access for CPOA, because the fact remains that there is still access to these videos
For
on the
120
server.
days.
On the server. And I think that the police department has to have the ability to preserve evidentiary credibility.
Well, we definitely have a mountain to get over because we, as you know, we have had the experience. I'm not saying this is more of that experience, but it's possible that it is, that we have had limited access to some evidence, and that's problematic for us. We can't do our work without that. So I wish you both well and our attorney well in finding a solution to this problem, because it is a problem.
And Chair Fine and board members, I haven't really heard where, I know of one instance where this has happened, where a video that was needed for an investigation was deleted. And the reason why it was deleted is because notice was provided late by the agency to the department. I don't know that this is something that's happening on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. I don't think
It
it's
can
something.
happen ever.
And I understand that, but I also believe that if there is something that's needed, if that notice is simply provided, then it will be retained. And I think that that's the, in my mind,
So your
one
solution
approach.
is that the CPOA should have the ability to extend that 120 days on evidence.com and allow the Department of Justice and the monitoring team to have access to that video as well.
Chair Fine and board members, what I'm saying is that it's just a simple matter of notice. If I'm an investigator and I know that I need this video indefinitely, I can reach out to the department and say, please preserve this video. Then the Department of Justice, the monitoring team, and obviously that investigator have access to that video. So it's not something that, you know, I think there is, and I don't fully understand the timelines, and sometimes those videos may be deleted because the investigation is delayed or whatever. I'm not as familiar with those timelines, but it seems to me reasonable to say that, you know, 4 months of time is the window in which an investigator can go and start the investigation and say, guess what? I need these videos, please keep them.
The problem is that we don't know which cases the monitoring team is going to go dig down into. So it could potentially be every case we look at. And that's problematic from our side. That's why this conversation has to happen offline and not here. I want to give the board a chance to offer any thoughts to our attorney or to our executive director to be part of that conversation. Are there any thoughts you want to share?
Well, I just...
let me recognize Mr. Cass first.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just had a question about why, if you could explain a little bit more about the audit function and why you cautioned against going down that road. I'm just curious to learn more about that function. So that I'm directing that at Director Harness.
Chair Fine, Board Member Dr. Cass. The audit function is for the purposes of looking at batches of particular cases or particular issues, and I don't believe it's purposeful in individual investigations.
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
If I may supplement that, the audit function, the ordinance permits the board to perform an annual audit or direct that an audit be performed on a sample of up to 10% of individual cases involving the allegations of use of force. And in exceptional circumstances, for the purpose of promoting an enhanced measure of quality assurance in the most challenging cases, may by a vote of 2/3 perform an audit or direct that an audit be performed on any individual complaint. So if you were going to go the individual complaint route, that would require the 2/3 vote for each case that you wanted to look at. That said, the ability of the board to perform its normal audit function may be impaired if there are videos related to complaints involving allegations of use of force that are not tagged for preservation, because a year later the board says, well, we want to audit for 2017, and here are the 10% of the cases that we've selected, and then the videos aren't there anymore.
Okay. So the audit function is really a data gathering tool on our part, as opposed to an investigative tool. Is that your read of this?
Chair Fine and members of the board, that is accurate.
Dr. Cass, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry? You good? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Armijo.
I'm not really clear in regards to, you have the original, and you're saying if we download it, it could change that. But if you have the original video, it's the original video. So if someone changes it, it doesn't make sense to me. If you have the original video, you can always go back to that original video and see if there were any changes made. Can you clarify that for me?
Sure, Chair Fine and Board Member Armijo. I understand that question absolutely, because the video is something that's particular, and I don't understand all the nuances of the technology behind video altering, video preservation, those types of things. I just know that the police department, as a result of the Chavez incident or that case, had the audit done by the third party, and one of the recommendations was to limit download ability, to limit it to certain personnel, limited personnel within the department. I certainly can have a deeper conversation with Commander McDonald. He's the expert in that area, but I think it goes to a simple concept of evidentiary preservation. But I think it's a good question. Unfortunately, I'm not the technical expert to be able to drill down and provide a lot of detail. And I certainly can follow up with that, and it can be part of our conversation with Mr. Harness and your attorney. But I'd like to clarify one thing that was just stated. If there is the example that was provided, a use of force investigation, those are tagged not to be deleted. I mean, those are supervisory force investigations, or they're serious use of force incidents. So what that means is that a supervisor is going out, he's collecting all those videos, putting them, I mean, they're already there at evidence.com, but they're segregated under that case number, so that in the future, they would be there. So I think
And that would include all cert cases?
Yes.
And all officer-involved shootings?
Absolutely.
But it wouldn't involve any other cases?
Well, the civilian complaints, I think that would be, and I can't speak for Director Harness, but I think the civilian complaints would be the area where if there's some video evidence of the claim or the complaint, that would be difficult to somewhat track down.
Yes, sir.
Chair Fine, yes, Attorney Schmiel is correct that any use of force report and any video related is not deleted in the 120 days because it has a case number and it goes through the investigative process. However, there are instances where there is use of force that is unreported, and that certainly could lead to a 120-day deletion that would not fall into that same category, where we then would get a complaint about a use of force that may not have been reported as a use of force. And so those, simply because it's a use of force case, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was reported and that the video would be tagged for preservation.
The problem also relates to when the complainant complains to us, and that is not time limited, is it?
Chair Fine, that's correct.
So our clock may start ticking, and it can be after the video's already been deleted from a civilian standpoint. So this is a significant problem. If the purpose of our process here, and in line with the police department, which I believe it is, our purpose is to enhance trust, build trust between the community and the police department. And we're not going to get there if we have walls that we have to climb over that are arduous to our intent. And that's the problem. So I would just ask you to take this seriously, and the department to take it seriously, because we have some significant things we're supposed to be doing, and this really interferes with that. That is my advice as you have your conversations. And Mr. Harness, please let me know if you need me at anything. And obviously, in terms of case review, Mr. Waits would be, as chair of that group, would be the right person for that, if you prefer.
Certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.